On August 2nd, 2015, in Gahanna, Ohio, Judy Malinowski's life took a devastating turn that would eventually lead to her death. The 31-year-old mother of two was at a gas station where she had a confrontation with her ex-boyfriend, Michael Slager. The relationship between Judy and Michael had been abusive for some time, and that day, the violence escalated to an unimaginable level. Michael Slager, known to have a volatile temper, had argued with Judy earlier that day. The argument reached a boiling point when they both arrived at the Speedway gas station. Judy was sitting in her car when Slager approached her, still angry and confrontational. In a terrifying and premeditated act of cruelty, Slager doused Judy in gasoline that he had obtained from the gas station. As the gasoline soaked Judy's skin and clothes, she pleaded with him to stop. Slager, ignoring her desperate cries for mercy, took out a lighter and set her on fire. The flames quickly engulfed her body, and she was consumed by a fire so intense that onlookers could do little to help at first. Panicked bystanders rushed to the scene, some grabbing fire extinguishers and trying to put out the flames that had already done unimaginable damage. Judy was severely burned, with over 90% of her body suffering 3rd and 4th degree burns. Her injuries were horrific. Her skin was charred, her hair completely singed off, and parts of her scalp were burned down to the bone. Medical professionals later described her injuries as some of the worst they had ever seen. She was rushed to the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, where doctors immediately began an intense effort to save her life. Judy was placed in a medically induced coma due to the severity of her burns, and her life hung in the balance. The burns were so severe that doctors had to amputate her fingers and other parts of her body in a desperate attempt to keep her alive. Despite suffering burns to over 90% of her body, Judy Malinowski displayed an extraordinary will to live. Rushed to the Ohio State University Wexner Medical Center, she underwent emergency treatment that included placing her in a medically induced coma to help her withstand the agony. Her injuries were so severe that doctors had to amputate several of her fingers in hopes of staving off infections that could spread throughout her body. Over the next 2 years, Judy's life was a continuous battle against the unimaginable. She endured more than 60 surgeries, each one more grueling than the last. These surgeries aimed to repair the damage from the fire, but there was only so much that could be done for someone with burns as extensive as hers. Judy's skin had been burned down to the bone in some areas, and her respiratory system was severely damaged from the inhalation of hot gases and fumes. Even in her heavily sedated and weakened state, Judy remained a fighter. Her family stood by her side, offering support through each painful procedure. She required round-the-clock care and lived in a state of constant pain, with her body and spirit pushed to their limits. Her 2 young daughters, Kaylin and Maddie, became a source of motivation for her, and she often expressed her desire to survive for their sake. During her 2-year fight, Judy didn't just lie in her hospital bed passively. Despite the immense physical and emotional toll the attack had taken on her, she became a vocal advocate for victims of domestic violence. Through sheer determination, she found ways to speak out about the dangers of abusive relationships.
Wanted to look at Michael Slager and tell him I'm not afraid of you anymore.
Her voice, raspy and weak, delivered powerful messages from her hospital room to the outside world. She warned others about the signs of abuse and the importance of seeking help before it was too late. In her final months, she recorded video statements that would later play a critical role in the legal proceedings against her abuser. Judy's efforts to raise awareness were not just brave, they were groundbreaking, She used her own unimaginable suffering as a platform to shine a light on the horrors of domestic violence. Her testimony, given from her hospital bed, allowed her to continue her fight for justice even after her death. The legal response to Michael Slager's horrifying act was initially seen by many as shockingly lenient. In the immediate aftermath of the attack, Slager was arrested and charged with aggravated arson and felonious assault. However, Judy was still alive at that time, and while her injuries were catastrophic, the law only permitted charges based on the assumption she might survive. Slager was sentenced to just 11 years in prison, a sentence that ignited outrage. The crime, many believed, was far more than just arson or assault. The burns had left Judy physically disfigured, in constant agony and dependent on life support. She was essentially fighting for her life every single day. To many, Slager's punishment seemed woefully inadequate for the immense suffering he had inflicted upon her. However, the legal system watched Judy's case closely, understanding that if she passed away, the charges could be escalated. Judy's family, too, held on to the hope that justice would be fully served if she succumbed to her injuries. Unfortunately, after 2 years of battling unimaginable pain and trauma, Judy Malinowski passed away on June 27, 2017, due to complications directly related to her burns. The moment of her death marked a pivotal shift in the case, as it allowed prosecutors to bring forth the most serious charge possible: murder. With Judy's passing, the legal landscape shifted, and it was no longer just about the assault and arson. Now, it was about holding Slager fully accountable for the life he had stolen. The trial that followed Judy's death became one of the most significant legal battles in Ohio's recent history. Michael Slager was charged with aggravated murder, and the case took on new dimensions as prosecutors sought to convict him not just for the initial assault, but for the death that followed 2 years later. This trial became notable not just because of the brutality of the crime, but because it marked one of the first times in Ohio where a defendant was tried for murder based on burns that eventually led to death. Slager initially pleaded not guilty, but the evidence against him was overwhelming. There were several eyewitnesses to the attack, and even more importantly, Judy herself had provided critical testimony before her death.
This is Magistrate Elizabeth Waters. I'm going to swear you in. Could you please raise your right hand to the extent that you possibly can? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this deposition will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, as you shall answer to God or under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Thank you.
He saw me and immediately slammed the truck to the park, got out, demanded that I got into the truck with him, called me all sorts of names. We argued for a good 5 to 10 minutes, and then I threw my pop on him.
You threw a pop on him?
Yes.
Did you splash it on him or actually throw the cup at him?
I threw the cup at him.
What was his reaction to this?
He was extremely upset.
And what did he do?
He ran around to the other side of his truck, and he got his these cans of gasoline that he had kept in the back of his truck. It was really big and had a lot of gas. He ran around to me and started pouring gasoline, started up my head and worked his way down. Some got into my throat as he did that. That burnt really bad.
The gasoline in your throat burnt really bad?
Yes.
And what happened as a result of having this gasoline poured on you?
He then set me on fire.
And he's pouring gasoline on you. What's his demeanor as he's pouring the gasoline on you?
Evil, just completely evil. He's not responding to any of my cries for help. He won't tell me why. He just like you want to throw something on somewhere, you want to throw a cop on me, see what I'll do to you, bitch, and how do you like this, and just all sorts of vulgar names.
Okay. After he poured the gasoline on you, what happens next?
He backed away from me for about 30 seconds, and I kept telling him to please help me and stop, and I'll get the truck, I'll go with you. You know, why would you do this? And I looked at him, and he pulled a lighter out of his pocket, and he started walking towards me, and I just remember crying and begging for help, and he let me on fire, and the look in his eyes went black, literally, after I was set on fire, and he backed away. His eyes just turned black as I screamed for his help. And he did nothing.
In a legal first, Judy's videotaped deposition, recorded from her hospital bed, was played during the trial. In this haunting testimony, Judy recounted in detail how Slager had approached her at the gas station, poured gasoline on her, and set her ablaze without hesitation.
Judy, tell me how that moment felt when you were ignited.
It felt horrible. I don't think words can describe what it feels like to have your whole body's on fire. I can remember fire out of my face and eyes. I can remember screaming for help. I can remember looking over and seeing him just standing there staring at me with the look in his face that was just, like I keep saying over and over again, pure evil. Like, there's no other words to describe it. My whole body felt like the worst burn you could ever feel in your life.
Okay.
And it stung, and it was like 1,000 needles going in, 1,000 hot needles penetrating my body. I guess that's the best way I can explain it. And I just remember, like I said, begging him to help, pleading for any help, trying to get the fire off my face, eventually burying my face in the grass and rolling it around. And then I got to the point where I couldn't see anything and everybody's voices were sounding far away. I could tell there was definitely somebody around, but I couldn't hear him or make it out. I thought for sure I was dying. I just prayed to Jesus to please forgive me for my sins and to take care of my children, and that was it. I blacked out and I don't remember anything until I woke up in the hospital.
This powerful video allowed Judy to confront her attacker from beyond the grave. Her words, filled with pain but also with resolve, painted a vivid picture of the cruelty she had endured.
Do you know how many surgeries you've had?
Over 50.
And you're aware that you have coded 7 times, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell me about the pain that you live with?
I can't tell you or describe how it feels. It's just waking up is a horrible thing. Because you wake up feeling the same way every day. They say it gets a little better as time goes by, but it's just one thing heals, another thing hurts. So I had to push myself to make it through every day. I have to really tell myself why I'm doing this, and I have to just breathe through it, and that's all I can do. It's nothing I would ever wish upon anybody, and it's terrifying to feel this way, and it's terrifying also to be disformed in certain ways. My whole body hurts. My muscles hurt just from stretching. My open wounds hurt and sting and burn when they put the dressings on and try to clean them. It's the worst thing ever. Even water hurts. So there's nothing that's okay about this.
It was a moment that left the courtroom in silence and had a profound impact on the jury. Judy's testimony became the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, serving as a reminder that while her body had failed, her spirit continued to fight for justice. Faced with overwhelming evidence, including Judy's own words, Slager changed his plea to guilty in exchange for the death penalty being taken off the table. In December 2018, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. While many believed he deserved the death penalty for such a heinous crime, the life sentence ensured that Slager would never walk free again. One of the most significant outcomes of Judy Malinowski's tragic case was the legal change that followed her death. Judy's suffering and the public outcry surrounding the lenient charges that initially followed her attack inspired lawmakers to take action. In July 2017, just 1 month after Judy passed away, Ohio Governor John Kasich signed Judy's Law into effect. Judy's Law increased penalties for individuals who use accelerants, such as gasoline, to cause injury or disfigurement. The law addressed the gap that had allowed Michael Slager to receive a relatively light sentence for his initial attack. Under the new law, anyone who commits such a crime will face harsher penalties, ensuring that future perpetrators of similar acts will be held accountable for the full extent of their cruelty. While the law was a significant victory, it came too late for Judy to witness its impact. Nonetheless, her bravery and her determination to speak out about domestic violence were directly responsible for the legal changes that now bear her name. Judy's Law is a testament to her strength and serves as a lasting legacy of her fight for justice.
As I look at Madison and Caitlin over here, as well as Bonnie, the mother of Judy, and what they went through is just a tremendous testament to them, their faith, as well as Bonnie's children too. I don't want to slight them, and her husband and John. They all did so much for future Ohioans. Here we have a lady, as you remember, that had struggled with so much pain over 600 days in terms of being in that hospital bed. And I'll never forget the first time I met her. She was in so much pain, but Bonnie, her mother, came out and greeted me and said that she didn't take any pain medicine that particular day because she wanted me to understand, since I was going to carry this bill, of the struggles and how much this meant to her, that she did not want anybody else to go through what she was suffering.
I would like to take this opportunity to thank all of those individuals who worked so hard to create and pass Judy's Law. The signing of Judy's Law means so much to my sister Madison and I. It is truly an honor to be here, and I know that if my mom was here, she would be truly honored as well. We know that our mommy did not suffer in vain. Her suffering brought her closer to God, and God gave her the strength to fight for justice and a better law for the victims of domestic violence. With this law, it is our prayer that no other kids will ever have to experience their mom or dad suffering so badly and God calling them to heaven. Also, the passing of Judy's Law is beyond amazing. It proves that every single person is capable of doing things bigger than they can imagine. I am proud to be the daughter of Judy Malinowski. I know that this signing would have meant so much to her. My mom fought 696 days in hopes that no other women or children would ever have to endure this journey that my family has experienced. My mom also wanted to make sure everybody received a fair and just punishment.
Sorry.
I want to thank all of you for passing a law in honor of my mommy. Yesterday was my 10th birthday, the first without my mom. The signing of this law will make sure that no other kid will have to watch their mom suffer and not be there to celebrate with their kid. Again, I just want to say thank you for passing Judy's law in honor of my mommy.
Judy Malinowski's death left a void that can never be filled, especially for her two daughters, Kaylin and Maddie. The trauma of losing their mother in such a brutal and public manner is something that will stay with them for the rest of their lives. Her family, however, has worked tirelessly to ensure that Judy's legacy endures. They have become advocates for victims of domestic violence, using Judy's story as a tool to raise awareness and push for stronger protections for those at risk of abuse. Judy's case also served as a wake-up call to the legal system, highlighting its failures in protecting women like her. Despite clear signs that Michael Slager was a danger to her, Judy had been left vulnerable to his violence. This case has since sparked conversations about the need for stronger preventative measures and better support for victims of domestic abuse. Judy Malinowski's legacy is one of strength, resilience, and a profound desire to protect others from suffering the same fate she did. She fought not only for her own survival, but for the survival of countless others who may now be spared the horrors of domestic violence because of the law that bears her name. Through her daughters, her family, and the legal changes she inspired, Judy Malinowski's spirit continues to fight on, reminding us all of the urgent need to confront and end domestic violence in all its forms.